Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a powerful Senate Judiciary Committee exchange. Senator John Kennedy pressed Merrick Garland on systemic racism and implicit bias. The discussion was intense and thought-provoking. Here's how it started. Kennedy leaned in and asked, "Judge, what do you mean by systemic racism?" Garland answered, mentioning disparities in jobs, housing, wealth, and opportunities. Kennedy cut in. This wasn't just another political Q&A.
Senator Kennedy, your diligence has been rewarded. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judge, I'm really curious about your thinking on this. And I don't want my questions to be interpreted as suggestive or inconsistent with your thinking. But you and I are about the same age, I think.
I think so. That's right, Senator.
Senator Kennedy asked Garland if the DOJ was systemically racist. Garland paused, then explained, "It's not about labeling an institution, but finding patterns that violate the Constitution." Kennedy kept pressing, and the tension rose. This part really hit me. Kennedy asked, "How do you know what you know? Is it just numbers or intent?" Garland said it's about patterns, not just numbers, but Kennedy pressed on. What's the difference between a racist person and a racist institution? A cosmic question. The most human part of the exchange, implicit bias.
What is, when you refer to systemic racism, what is that?
I think it is plain to me that there is discrimination and widespread disparate treatment of communities of color and other ethnic minorities in this country. They have a disproportionately lower employment, disproportionately lower homeownership rates, disproportionately lower ability to accumulate wealth.
Can I stop you? Because this 5 minutes goes so fast.
I'm sorry.
So you're basically saying there's a disparate impact.
There's disparate impact, which in some cases is the consequence of historical patterns. Sometimes is the consequence
Okay,
of
let me answer this.
unconscious bias and some kind conscious.
When you were at the Department of Justice,
Yes.
was the Department of Justice then systemically racist?
I think we look for a pattern or practice in each institution. When you talk about a specific institution, you look for its pattern and practices.
But how do you know what you know? In other words, you say an institution is systemically racist.
I didn't say any particular institution.
I know. I'm not saying you did. Yeah. I'm saying if you say an institution is systemically racist, how do you know what you know? Do you measure it by a disparate impact, controlling you for other factors?
Well, the very specific...
Or do you just look at the numbers and say the system must be racist?
Well, now you've asked me a slightly different question, which I think I have a slightly different answer for.
Okay,
So
cool.
the authority the Justice Department has to investigate institutions is to look for patterns or practices of unconstitutional conduct. And if we find a pattern or a practice of unconstitutional conduct, I would describe that as institutional racism within that institution. That may not be the perfect definition, but that's what I would think.
So it's just a product of the numbers.
Well, if there is a pattern and a practice, this is not just a question of individual numbers. What we're looking for here under those investigations are patterns. Why is it that, a series of similar events are occurring like that? Looking into any individual's heart is not something we can do.
Who bears the burden of proving that? The institution? Or the justice?
No. Like as in all matters of law, the burden is on the investigator to prove, first by investigation, then before a court.
Is there any other way to measure institutional racism other than the numbers, the disparate impact?
Well, yes. I mean, you can look at large numbers of individual cases in which discriminatory conduct is actually found, intentional discriminatory conduct. Then it's not just a question of numbers. But, if an institution has a very large number of incidents of unconstitutional conduct, the entity is responsible in the same way a corporation is responsible for the behavior of its individuals. It's the same way as
What's the difference, though, between people who are racist and an institution that's racist?
Now we do have a cosmic question, but I think institutions are made up of.
Yeah, but this is important.
I know. I'm totally with you. I totally agree with that. Corporations are nothing other than the collection of their individuals. And the same is true for a public entity, which is in a certain way a corporation.
Okay, I got to get one more in. I'm sorry, I got 24 seconds.
I'm sorry, you asked a very hard question.
Well, we can talk about this later, but I want to ask you about this concept of implicit bias.
Yeah.
Kennedy asked, "Does that mean I'm a racist even if I don't know I am?" Garland clarified, "Implicit bias means everyone has unconscious stereotypes, not that you're racist." Kennedy pressed, saying even those judging him have bias too. Want more of these powerful exchanges without the spin? Hit subscribe to support us and keep the real conversations coming.
Does that mean I'm a racist no matter what I do or what I think? I'm a racist, but I don't know I'm a racist?
Okay, the label racist is not one that I would apply like that. Implicit bias just means that every human being has biases. That's part of what it means to be a human being. And the point of examining our implicit biases is to bring our conscious mind up to our unconscious mind and to know when we're behaving in a stereotyped way. Everybody has stereotypes. It's not possible to go through life without working through stereotypes. And implicit biases are the ones that we don't recognize our behavior. That doesn't make you racist, no.
Who judges that? Doesn't the person judging me have his own implicit bias? How do I know his implicit bias isn't worse than my implicit bias?
I agree, but I'm not judging you, Senator, and I don't know
I'm not asking
who
you
would
to,
be judging.
but somebody, if you say you have implicit bias, that's a pejorative statement. I'm not saying you're being mean. You're not a mean guy. That's obvious. You're a nice guy. If you say somebody has implicit bias, somebody's got to make that subjective judgment, and the person making that subjective judgment has implicit bias. If it's part of being a human, then how do you know who wins?
Fair enough, but if we say that all people have implicit bias, it's not, you shouldn't take it as pejorative. This is just an element of the human condition. So you shouldn't take that as pejorative. Implicit bias is just a descriptor of the way everyone's mind works.
Kennedy asked, "If America has racists, does that make it systemically racist?" Garland replied, "It's not about calling everyone racist, but about patterns of discrimination." The hearing ended with mutual respect, no easy answers.
How about if you say that America has racists in it, just like everybody else? Does that just like everywhere else? Does that make America systemically racist?
I think, I don't want to waste your time because I think this is what I said before. What I mean by systemic racism is the patterns of discrimination and disparate treatment across the country. It doesn't mean that any particular individual is a racist.
Judge, I'm in big trouble. I've gone way over.
I'm developing a bias. Thank you for the exchange.
It's a pleasure talking with you, Senator.
Same
I
here, Judge.
appreciate
You'll
it.
be a good attorney general.
So what do we take from this? Senator Kennedy and Merrick Garland tackled tough questions. No easy answers here. That's why this exchange matters. It forces us to ask hard questions about justice and fairness. What did you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.